Mr. President?
Yes, Senator. For what purpose, Senator Whitmire?
I've seen the gentleman yield.
Do you yield?
I yield for a question.
Senator Huffines, I'm listening intently, and would you put a face on this for all of us? And I think, members, we need to all settle down and let's pay attention to the debate, because I think it is really, as I asked my question, it's gotten a little silly. And unfortunately, I think it's gotten silly partly because of the way the bill was laid out. I think when Senator Taylor implied that we're all crooks and that there's a lot of sleazy members, to compare us to New York, say that we're ripe for corruption, I think you've done a horrible disservice to this outstanding body. Because I think you, Senator Taylor, ought to look down, start over here and go row by row. Who are you implying that needs additional ethics enforcement? Because if you know someone, you need to name us. And you need to run over to the district attorney or the U.S. Attorney's office if you have any scintilla of evidence that there's wrongdoing. And I hate to pop your balloon, but this is not the ethics reform of a generation. The ethics reform of a generation is what happened in 1973 when I came to the legislature with 76 new House members. We followed the Sharpstown scandal, where stock was swapped and given. We had a Speaker of the House go to prison. It ruined the career of Lieutenant Ben Barnes, and I can go on and on. So if you follow your Texas history, there's some of us still serving that did serve in the legislature when we passed ethics reform of the generation. Prior to 73 session, anything went. I understand gifts were the name of the game. Trips were unregulated. We passed a very tough penal code that said that anything of benefit is a felony given to a sitting member. In fact, the first session, Mr. President, I was here, no whining and dining, no drinks, no restaurants, no dinners, because the statute that we passed in 73 said if you give anything of benefit to a member, it was a felony. Later, John Hill ruled that if it was consumed at the time that it was given, such as a meal, that it was okay. But to start out today implying that there's a public outcry because of the image of this body is just dead wrong. We're not New York. It's analogous to saying that all police officers abuse people. You and I know that's wrong, and it's wrong to imply that this body suffers from a corrupt environment. Senator Huffines, what are you trying to address, and can you cite to me any members that are having business relationships with one another that would be inappropriate? Because I think you're doing a disservice to imply that there's something going on between members. I don't know of any, and if you will point them out, we ought to drill down on it, and if it's wrong, we'll fix it.
I think it's important that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I would say this, Senator, that you're right. There's a felony to eat, to take people out to eat, spend money on other people. But it wouldn't be
No, it's not a felony to do that.
Well, it wouldn't be a problem
You report
if that person worked for you. If you hired and put 5 members here on your payroll.
But who's doing that? Cite who is in a business relationship with one another that's influencing their job. Who? It's wrong for you to stand there and paint a picture that does not exist, and I don't even know how it would exist.
It can easily exist. And I'm not here to I'm not saying it does. I'm here to say that it is a gate door. The door is open for abuse. And this amendment is to hopefully close that door so we don't have to address it 30 years from now or 5 years from now or 1 year from now.
So would you prohibit 2 attorneys on the floor becoming law partners? I believe your language prevent 2 lawyers from becoming law partners in a very legitimate business relationship. Or I know some folks in the past invested in Senator Ogden's all exploration. I didn't, but it was pretty obvious and open that Some did. Would that be wrong? I mean, two honorable people taking advantage of business opportunity?
I would say this.
Well, answer that. Is there,
Yeah, I
is there
will.
something
I
wrong?
will
No,
say that, yes, that
Senator Ogden, who is one of the most impeccable, honest persons I've ever met. I know members that invested in his oil exploration. Are you trying to prevent that business practice?
Yes.
Why?
Because I don't know, and you don't know, what the future holds related to members investing in.
You're sitting there. Do you know what you're doing? You're incriminating outstanding, honest people with your comments right now. You have nothing to go by. I'm telling you, Steve Ogden is honest, and members gave him hard-earned money to invest.
I'm sure they did, and I'm sure he is. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's better public policy if they didn't. There's other people they could invest
Do you have a
with.
problem with a member sitting on a bank board that's regulated by the state of Texas, as Senator Taylor is? He sits on a bank board regulated by the state. Do you think that that ought to be restricted?
No, that's not my bill. That's not
Do
my
you have an
amendment.
opinion, since you're becoming our ethics advisor, or certainly one of our ethics advisors? What about the sponsor of the bill sitting on a bank board? We haven't prohibited that, and I could see all kinds of potential problems there. If you don't trust him as an honest man.
I think that, personally, that's not my bill. My bill is simply about members and statewide officials employing
Well, let me close
each
by
other.
saying, do you agree with me that it is wrong if this bill becomes a bill to settle old political scores? You and I know that you're trying to get after John Corona because he may or may not have hired former members to do consultant and PR work for him while he was a sitting member, and they were a sitting member. Are you trying to settle a score with John Corona as we talk today, as Taylor's trying to get after Wendy Davis because it came out in the governor's race that she was doing business with public entities? Or do you agree with me that settling political scores is inappropriate?
Members, let's remember the decorum of the Senate. Please continue, Senator. Please continue.
Do you agree with me that it is wrong to try to settle political scores as we're sitting here talking about a serious subject of legislative consideration?
I appreciate the question, Senator. The score was settled when I won, and I find it, and I was not aware of the potential conflict of interest that members can get involved in. And so when it's brought to my attention, I think it's very important that we close that door.
Senator Huffines, would you not agree with me that I think this body has had a really good session of open, transparent debate up to this point in this session? Would you not agree with me? I've been proud of this body. Have you been proud of this body up to this point, with transparency, respect of one another, and not questioning people's hidden agendas or their moral characters or ethics? Up to this moment, at 3 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon?
I'm very honored to be in this body.
Are you concerned, like I am, as I've sat here not intending to speak, but listening to the introduction of the bill, comparing us with the slime of the New York legislature that is historically known for deal making? They get a full-time salary, but they still want to do consulting and referral of stuff. It just makes me sick at my stomach. Does it not disturb you to hear people infer that there's corruption and ethical problems in this outstanding body?
That's not how I heard it, Senator.
You didn't hear that?
No.
Did you hear the comparison to New York? And the fact that their speaker and the majority leader of their Senate is under indictment by feds. In fact, there was people reading, the sponsor was reading the allegations of the federal governments against those sitting members. I think I've made my point, Senator Huffines. I think you're settling the no political score. I know Taylor is, and it's disappointing that this body is turning to that this afternoon. I'd ask the members to stay in their seat, pay attention to this debate, and let's stand up and do the right thing for the rest of this debate.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator.